What's going on, guys? It's UrAvgConsumer, and it's been a long time since I got my hands on the new, or sort of new, 15-inch MacBook Air. This thing was released back in June, so I've had quite some time with it, and I gotta say, this has easily become one of my favorite Macs so far. And to give you guys some context, I've been using the 2021 16-inch MacBook Pro, pretty much maxed out specs. Jay, I think you have one of those too, right? We both got one of those.
Yeah, M1 Max.
M1 Max, and this guy for me has completely replaced it. Now, that's not to say it is on the same level in terms of power, screen, and all that, but a lot of what it brings to the table, I felt more than comfortable using as my daily machine. Now, what we're looking at is the biggest MacBook Air that Apple has ever created, and I'm happy that it finally has a 15-inch option. Now, we are in some really interesting times in the world of Apple, because the MacBook Air isn't a device that I would ever consider myself as a daily driver, because typically the MacBook Air has never been like the most powerful option available, and it's still not the most powerful today. But thanks to Apple Silicon, they completely changed the landscape of their laptops, and this 15-inch MacBook Air has been able to handle pretty much anything that I would want to throw at it. Now, ever since Apple changed the design of the MacBook Air, I've been all about it. I think it is a really awesome looking design, and it's still really thin. I think this is 11.5 millimeters thin, and it's 3.3 pounds. So it's not exactly a really light laptop, but for a 15-inch device, I'm more than comfortable throwing this thing into my backpack and bringing it around. I just find it a little bit easier to grab and a little less cumbersome than the 16-inch MacBook Pro that I typically take around. Now, the 15-inch Air does come in 4 colors, just like what we saw with the 13-inch model. So we're looking at space gray, silver, midnight, and what you see here, which is starlight. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I was like, starlight? But it's grown on me, you know? It's got like this champagne color, this champagne vibe to it. It's definitely grown on me. I'm a fan. I was midnight only, but I will say, midnight attracts so many fingerprints, and I haven't been having to worry about that so much with this one. So that's something that's been a nice change of pace, and I'm okay with it.
You don't see it at all? Or?
I mean, well, Jay, come on, you got the fingers, you're worse than me.
I'm already sweaty. I see it.
No, give it a second though. It's disappearing, man.
Okay.
So this is a really clean looking 15.3-inch display. Yes, it does have the notch. It's the same size notch as the 13-inch option, so it might seem a little bit smaller on this screen, but like I said, you do get quite a bit more real estate here. And while it may not have something like the ProMotion display that you see with the MacBook Pros, I've been more than fine using it, and honestly, I think if you're the average person, you're not going to really be able to see too much of a difference yourself.
The MacBook Pro has ProMotion display?
Mm-hmm. You never knew that. It does have ProMotion, so you get that 120 hertz refresh rate, not something you're gonna be able to see here. But I feel like that's kind of like the point of the MacBook Air. It is an average consumer-friendly device, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So visually with this display, I've been very happy with it. I never have to question Apple's color accuracy. It gets more than bright enough for me to use it in multiple locations. So it's a very adequate screen, even though it isn't quite to the standard of the MacBook Pro. And if you're somebody who likes to watch content or just play some music from the laptop, this thing has 6 speakers in it, and they sound pretty good. Might not be on the MacBook Pro's level. Those are obviously much larger speakers. And considering this thing's size, the sound quality that you get out of these speakers are pretty legit. And while they might not have the full range that the Pros do, I can't imagine anybody grabbing this and honestly complaining. Now, we do have to talk about the I/O. So you do have your MagSafe charging port over here, 2 Thunderbolt ports on the left side, and on the right side, you've got your headphone jack. You know, it's a larger laptop. Another Thunderbolt port on the other side would have been nice, but it comes with 2. Now, you might hear me talking about moving from a powerful 16-inch MacBook Pro to something like the MacBook Air, which has the M2 chip. And honestly, since Apple Silicon has hit the markets, it's completely shaken up the way we look at the entire spectrum of Apple laptops, because honestly, they're all extremely capable. Now, to give you guys some context, I'm coming from a 2021 M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch, and this is a very powerful device. Jay and I have been using it ever since it's released to handle any of the editing stuff that we may need to do. We know both of our machines are going to be able to do it. Now, I have put this aside to go over to the M2 MacBook Air 15-inch. Now, it is not as powerful as this guy, but honestly, if I ever needed to, do some editing or some quick work, I know that this thing is going to be able to handle it. Now, while this guy may not be able to handle longer editing sessions like this guy would, because of the less powerful chip, as well as the fanless design, honestly, because I'm not somebody who's like constantly editing, this is more than enough. So I feel like this hits the really sweet spot for the average person who maybe doesn't need to go get a Pro and they just want a bigger display, a bigger laptop, still have it be more than powerful enough to last them a few years. This is definitely gonna check that box. And even if you are somebody who's more like a prosumer, who wants to do a little bit of video editing, who wants to handle some more taxing work, this is also going to be able to handle that. And that's kind of what the MacBook Air has always been about, right? It's been the average consumer's device, but because Apple has dropped these new chips, they're more than capable of being more than that these days. Professionals can use them. Anyone who wants to become a professional can get something like this and still feel comfortable with the purchase. Now, something that also impressed me with this machine is the battery life. Now, we know Apple Silicon gets really good battery life. This is no different. This thing, honestly, I've gone days without charging it. I use it sporadically. I have my work computer, and this is like my personal / work laptop. So whenever I jump into this, I'm spending maybe, half an hour to an hour on it at a time, and I can go days without charging it. And honestly, I just like being able to, do something like this with a 15-inch laptop. Like I said, it's not the lightest in the world, but the weight distribution has just been great. This is one of those devices where if you want to, you can go ahead and open it with a single finger. That's always the cherry on top, and this thing can absolutely do that. So that's kind of who I think this is for. The average person who wants to just web browse and just do standard emailing and that kind of stuff on a bigger screen, this thing is going to be absolutely great for you. It's an awesome laptop, from the keyboard, the display, the weight, the battery life. It checks all of the boxes. This is an extremely good machine. And if you're the average person who maybe wants to become a professional, maybe take up video editing on the side, photo editing on the side, whatever it may be, this is still gonna be more than powerful enough to handle that. But if you do consider yourself like a seasoned professional, chances are you're probably gonna wanna look at the MacBook Pro line to get the most out of your laptop. But even me as a professional, I've been moving around just fine with this. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. Listen, it's official when I throw a Gundam sticker on it. That's like the seal of approval. This is gonna be the device that I'm using moving forward, and this is everything. But that about wraps it up for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, be the cool guy or girl that gives this video a thumbs up. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, it's your average consumer. Peace. I'm curious, if you guys are using an Apple laptop with Apple Silicon in it, do you feel any need to upgrade? That's my question for you guys. Peace. No. There you go. Form factor made me change, but I wouldn't really need to change it. Yeah.